Well, we're starting with the sequel that we've been waiting for 3.5 years.
No lie.
Obviously there's a lot of controversy surrounding it.
That's
like
an understatement.
Jim Carrey's failed attempt to not bring it publicity.
Yeah. And he had the adverse effect, of course.
I'd say that was pretty much their main marketing campaign, actually.
Yeah?
It seemed.
And when did it lose its balls to the wall title?
Somewhere it was.
Because I know that was the original subtitle of the second one.
Well, they started talking about a sequel shortly after the first one came out.
Correct.
But then it got dropped for a long time. And then when Matthew Vaughn hired Jeff Wadlow, it came back, and I guess somewhere in there it lost its title. So it's just the two now.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know from the setup in the first one that the lead into this one is Chris being the villain.
Correct.
However...
He even drops the Nicholson line, too.
However, the beginning of this movie, we learn that his mom threw away his Red Mist costume. And he gets pissed off and accidentally kills her. in like his opening scene.
Yeah.
So he's left with his bodyguard Javier, who is John Leguizamo.
Yeah.
And they're going through all her old stuff, and they find her. Apparently she had a dominatrix outfit stashed away. And he decided that was going to be his costume.
Yeah.
And instead of Red Mist, he's now the motherfucker.
Yes.
And he wants to be... Kick-Ass was about a kid who strives to be the world's first real superhero.
Correct.
The main focus of this one is a kid who wants to be the first guy who becomes the first real supervillain.
True.
Despite the fact that it doesn't really... Richard Dreyfuss just turned around in your driveway and distracted me.
Right on.
It looked all like him.
We saw him last night.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about him a little bit.
But Chris actually isn't a lot of focus. This is actually more of a hit girl movie than anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Really the main focus, well, it's not the main focus, but it's a big focus, is, now that she's been adopted by Marcus, who is now Morris Chestnut, and it was Amari Hardwick, I think was his name.
Yes.
But he wants her to, he's like very strict on abandoning the whole hit girl. It's a very interesting thing to do. It's like this girl's been trained to be an assassin her whole life. It's basically, you need to stop being an assassin to your girl.
Yeah, pretty much.
But of course, she pretends to go to school, and then she sneaks around and still fights crime and all that. With Kick-Ass, obviously.
Well, apparently he's a bad influence, according to Marcus. I don't want you to hang out with that boy anymore.
If you wanna look from the outside looking in, I guess they're bad influences on each other.
I would say that's a really good way to put it.
As far as the first one goes, there are some things that are still intact. Like, the first thing I wondered was if they were gonna stick to the, they could have improved it, like when you see the obviously much better done effects from Spider-Man to Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, of course.
Like, Spider-Man's effects look really dated, especially when you look at Spider-Man 2. I don't know if it's just because that's all they could do, or if they wanted to just stick with the same vibe as the first one. But it wasn't talked about too much, but the first one had very fake-looking, really bad CGI blood. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Like when, what was his name? Razul, I think was his name.
Yes.
Gets stabbed in the back by Hit Girl, that very obviously CG blade. And yeah, the second one continues that. I said, I don't know if it was to just kind of compliment the first one, or if it's because that's just all they can do. Or...
It could go either way.
We'll say it was to keep in the tradition of the original.
That makes them sound better, so we'll go with that.
One thing that kind of bothered me a little bit was this. This movie is very a lot of sequels just kind of fall into themselves and kind of do their own thing. The first 15 minutes or so of this movie are very, very heavy on the exposition from the first movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, we get reminded, like, 3 times that Big Daddy died, and we even see a big picture of Nicolas Cage.
Wearing the glasses.
Chris takes us through the whole ending of the first one again. In case you forgot, he blew my dad up with a bazooka.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a little unnecessary education.
Especially for people that are fans of either the novel, the graphic novel, or fans of the original. Which is
another reason to complain, because there's a couple of things they completely overlook from the first one.
Okay.
For starters, being the very last scene of the first one. There's actually a hint that he's going to call himself the motherfucker at the very end.
Yeah, there really is.
Because he says that his mom threw away his red mist suit. But at the very end of Kick-Ass, he's wearing a different suit, and he has an M on his chest.
Yeah.
What happened to that suit?
That's his new red mist suit, maybe?
It.
Okay, it could work for both. There's a reason to say it means one thing, or it means mist, so...
Yeah, even though that suit had no red on it, it was like yellow and black.
Yeah.
Or I think orange was in there, too. And another thing is, there's a joke that you would think would carry on, but they never even remotely referenced it in this one. It's when they're watching the supposed live execution online, and after Hit Girl kills everybody, Todd says, I think I'm in love with her, dude, and he says, yeah, but she's like 11 years old, and he's like, I don't care, I solemnly vow to swear, what was it? I solemnly swear to save myself for her, is what he said.
Yes.
And then they bring that joke back at the end, when, you have Marty making out with some girl, and Dave making out with,
Night Bitch.
This is the end of the first one.
Oh.
What was her name?
Oh, Lindsay Fonseca. Katie Devereaux.
Yeah. And Todd's just sitting there reading a comic book because he's waiting for Hit Girl.
Yes.
That joke never comes into this one.
And I think other than maybe, like window dressing, like, for, like, a split second, they don't have any screen time together either.
Yeah, like...
Maybe in the hallway every once in a while, but they really don't have any considerable screen time.
At the very end, when they're all together...
There's like almost no dialogue between the two of them either.
I will mention, I'll mention a couple of things about Todd real quick, because we delve into him a little more. He's not Evan Peters anymore, because Evan Peters is too busy with American Horror Story now.
Yeah.
He's some kid I don't know. And he has this kind of side plot that's not really, it doesn't really get focused, it's just kind of, you just kind of see it there. And they don't really talk about it, but his thing is, all his friends have become superheroes now. But Todd is kind of lagging behind. He's got where Kick-Ass's suit is green with a little bit of yellow. Todd wears the exact same suit, only it's yellow with a little bit of green. And he calls himself variations of Kick-Ass that are basically rip-offs.
Ass kicker is what he ended up settling on.
And then
He's Augustus Prue, by the way. I'm looking at it right now. He's in Charlie St. Cloud. He was in The Village.
And this plot doesn't really get any attention, but they make fun of him after he calls himself Ass Kicker, like they call him Ass Licker, and they give him a hard time.
Of course.
And then suddenly in his next scene, he's on the motherfucker side.
Yeah.
And he's in that area, and he like brats them out. But then there was never really a transition scene of when he made that transition.
It's the Cartman vibe. Screw you guys, I'm going home. So he went over to the hillside.
Yeah. Another controversy was how this movie supposedly goes a lot farther than the first one did.
Yeah.
As far as taking its content to the extreme. Which, yeah, I'd say. Well, here's the thing. There's always a theater story to tell.
Of course.
It was really, really hard to get into this movie because there were these 3 kids that I'm pretty sure were not supposed to be in there.
We're using the word kids, and we mean this in this case.
I'm pretty sure they had to be like 12 or 13.
Sounds about right.
And their voices went nonstop the whole time. Literally the whole time. It was some dude and his girlfriend and another girl, and he was like trying to, impress them or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing was it was really awkward because you could tell these people probably shouldn't have been in there because first off, we see the dominatrix outfit, and very audibly this girl says, "What is that?" And of course, there's anal beads with it too. And then there's another scene everybody was complaining about, which was the scene where the motherfucker attempts to rape Night Bitch.
Yes.
So he breaks into her house and has guys hold her down. And he says something along the lines of, now you're going to see what evil dick feels like or something.
That's exactly what he says.
But the trouble is he's not
able to perform. We'll go with that.
So
We a little PG here.
It's comedy relief, obviously.
Very much so.
He turns around and starts to jerk off. So he can attempt to...
He regresses to McLovin, to be totally honest.
And of course, once again, he turns around and he starts jerking off. And the young girl across from me audibly yells, "What is he doing?"
He's doing his taxes. That's what you need to know it to be known as from now on. He's doing his taxes. Leave him be.
Okay, anyway, and there's a couple of scenes, it's worth mentioning, there's a couple of scenes in the Hit Girl scenes that are lifted from other movies.
Yes.
I'm going to start with the Ferris Bueller scene. Obviously Marcus is I said Morris and Marcus all together there.
That easily slides together because they're both MS and there's R's in there. So yeah.
And Mork is in the Butler, but we'll get there in a minute.
Yes.
Obviously she's hiding the fact that she's still Hit Girl.
Yeah.
And of course Marcus hears on his radio that a girl in a mask with a sword has been fighting her one. So he's basically racing her back to the house. And then she pretends to be sick and all that. And then there is a scene I wasn't too fond of personally.
That's an understatement.
You may recall a scene in Minority Report where they had a futuristic weapon called the Six Stick. Hit Girl has a Six Stick.
Yes.
And she basically uses it. It comes back at the end, but the main punchline is she uses it on bullies.
The Mean Girls.
At school. Yeah, the whole subplot is that Hit Girl actually does try to become normal.
Yep.
To appease Marcus, and she goes through the Mean Girls thing where they, make her over and all that, and then that's actually just a bullying technique.
Leave her out in the middle of nowhere.
I guess we can talk about Jim Carrey now.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Without saying too much, you don't get a lot of Jim Carrey in this movie.
No, not at all.
But enough he makes an impression.
Definitely.
And a lot of people are actually saying he's wearing some prosthetics. Like I don't know what the deal with his character is, but his face is different.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are actually struggling to realize that it's Jim Carrey. Like there was actually a critic saying that throughout the whole movie they weren't even really sure, like had they not seen the trailers.
Well, he does become his characters, as we learned in Man on the Moon, so.
But I don't know what they did. I don't know if it was what he was wearing or if it was the fact that he was around a bunch of teenagers, but he looked huge.
Yeah, he was giant.
You wouldn't think Jim Carrey would be imposing, but...
When the last thing he did was Philip Morris? He looked tiny in that. But Ewan McGregor's big too,
he's had like Mr. Popper's Penguins.
I didn't see that movie. He looked small in Mr. Popper's Penguins. There you go.
But,
maybe it was just like body armor or something.
Now, the interesting thing about the controversies, everybody's giving him a hard time for saying that he's not promoting the movie because of its gun violence.
Yep.
But the interesting thing is that his character in the movie is actually kind of the same way. He used to be a mafia enforcer, and then once he became a born-again Christian, he made himself this superhero. He does, threaten with a gun like you see in the trailer, but the gun's empty, of course. He does, however, have an American flag bat that he beats the shit out of people with, and his dog. What was his dog's name?
Eisenhower, I believe.
His dog has the American flag mask, and he, bites people. Yeah, just because Colonel Stars doesn't use a gun doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, no lie.
So, yeah, I think I think they use Carrey to the extent that they could.
I agree.
I wouldn't say he's underused. And he makes an impression while he's there. I actually thought he was awesome, personally.
Yeah, I love the character.
So,
and Carrie did a great job with it, too.
He's this big, imposing guy that could very easily beat you to death, but he's also the watch your language guy.
Yeah.
He's the head of the Justice Forever. I think it's their team.
That is correct. We're actually looking at it right now.
You have all these people, and it's like the superhero tryout scene in Mystery Men.
That's exactly what came to me.
All came together in this area. Like there's those parents that their son died, and they are avenging him, but they're just these normal parents, but they're just wearing masks.
Red, orange and blue masks, and they're wearing jumpsuits and everything.
Marty's become battle guy, who is a lie. He gives himself Batman's backstory.
Yeah, no lie.
Until he's called out on it. This is the first time he learns that Dave is kick-ass.
Dom Faison comes in a really funny performance. He's at Dr. Gravity.
Yeah, he's like a physics professor.
He reminds me of the Meteor Man.
Yeah.
Big time.
But then there's that scene where it's it's when they go into the, where the gambling's going on, and they're getting ready to bust it up, but then they're like, Dr. Gravity has the flu, and, those guys, I forget what their names were, but they have Book of Mormon tickets.
That made me laugh out loud when I heard that, to be totally honest.
Colonel Sars is very cool, though. He's just like, well, there's 5 of us, it'll do.
It's okay, no harm done.
His line in all the trailers, try to have fun, otherwise what's the point? It's very weird when there's one scene where we see Colonel Sars without his mask.
Yeah, it's very strange.
And you can tell it's Carrie and prosthetics, but he's still within the character, and you can't tell. I thought it was very interesting how they did the subtitles.
I loved it. Comic book style.
They're in the form of speaking bubbles in comics.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
And you have that. There is a lot of people are afraid that because this movie goes to so many dark places that the comedy won't hold up.
It does.
And the comedy that is there, some people think is way too vulgar and immoral and mean-spirited.
Yeah.
There's that. It's kind of like that. They followed up like the scene with Hit Girl where she has the sword on the guy and she tells him, "Do you promise not to do crime anymore?" And he's like, "Yeah, I promise." And then he reaches for a knife and she cuts his hand off and says, "Pants on fire." And then he's writhing on the floor in pain, and Kick-Ass is starting to leave, and she's like, "Hey, what did you think?" And he's like, "I thought you weren't doing this anymore." "No, what did you think of my line? Pants on fire. It's a good one, isn't it?"
She was so proud of herself, too.
It's like she had been waiting to use that line. There's also it's worth noting, there's a new villain that's basically the motherfucker's main henchman, or woman. She's this very built woman that was released from prison called Mother Russia. And she's basically indestructible. Yeah. And there's this very big scene where it's right after they break into Night Bitch's house. They're in her neighborhood, which by the way looks nothing like New York. But
it reminds me a lot of was it Resident Evil?
Yeah, kind of.
Very much like the beginning of Resident Evil's first trailer.
Also the Dawn of the Dead neighborhood.
Yeah, I can see that too.
And these cop cars keep coming, and Mother Russia just takes them out like they're nothing.
She takes out like 10 cops.
Yeah, one of them with a lawnmower through the windshield.
Yeah, I don't want to think about lawnmowers over people's faces after last year, so.
Sinister.
Yes. Every single person in D'Amico's little gang here basically has a very bad stereotype mission with their name. And he does this on purpose.
Like Genghis Carnage.
Genghis Carnage.
I forget what some of the other ones are.
There was the Tumor.
Yeah, the little guy.
Black Death, who was a UFC fighter.
There was there was that one UFC guy that was training Chris.
Yeah. That was Black Death. He had like the Predator mask. Oh, you're talking about Chuck Liddell.
Yeah, it's that guy.
And he made fun of him, and the devil was going to fight him, and he's like, forget it.
Yeah, I've just seen his face on posters. I don't really know anything about UFC.
Yeah.
So there's this thing that's very interesting. I won't say what it is, obviously, but there's something that's paid off at the end, and they keep building it up about Hero has these needles, which, by the way, we've never seen before.
No.
You'd think they would have been in the first one, but they're a new thing, I guess. Where she basically says they're a last resort. Kind of like, I couldn't help but think, since Aaron Johnson's in this movie, the ending of Savages.
Yeah.
The drug that basically kills you if you have to resort to that.
It's like a cyanide capsule, but in, like, shot form.
But there's a payoff you're not really thinking about.
No.
That comes in with that at the end.
It was awesome, too.
Even with me saying that, you might think you know what it is, but it does. You'll see. So yeah, a lot of critics are hating this movie because for the same reasons they didn't like a lot of people are complaining that the novelty is worn off from the first one.
It's been 3 years.
3.5 years.
Yeah.
But I liked pretty much most of what they did with this.
It was enjoyable.
And I do need to bring up how much I like Leguizamo in this movie. I was afraid because he's not exactly been getting the best parts lately.
No.
When he should be.
He always should be.
In Gamer. He had that scene in Gamer, and I was like, well,
that's it.
He was never, I didn't realize he was in this movie. This is awesome that he's in it. In his next scene, he just dies.
Yeah.
This is the biggest part he's had for a while that I can remember.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, and it's this... He gives Chris some depth, too.
You find out a little bit more about his backstory that way, too.
He's basically... The joke is made that he's basically, his Alfred to Chris's evil Bruce Wayne. Like, someone makes the joke, since when am I your butler?
You just call me a butler? No,
Speaking of that...
We'll do that in a few minutes.
Yeah, I like this one just fine. I wouldn't say it's, most early reviews said it's got enough of what the first one had to be satisfactory, but it doesn't, reach the heights of the first one. But it's got plenty of big moments. I gotta stress this a lot. The people who have heard about this. There's an after credits scene.
Yep.
Okay.
I kind of called, but not quite.
I can't say what it is, but I will say, if you had the choice, if you were debating, whether you should or not, I would actually leave before it happens, because I think it kind of taints the ending a little bit.
It's not as important as you would think it would be.
It's just, the movie has a fine ending, the way it is. And I don't really know exactly what direction they can take with what this after credits scene provides.
If anything, it kind of reminds me of the ending of Tropic Thunder. 30 minutes or less.
I think you're saying too much.
No, I'm just saying that something you think may or may not be the case. It's not worth saying. We'll just go with that. How's that sound?
Yeah, if they were to branch off with a third one...
It'll be a hit girl movie.
Judging by that after credits scene, I don't know what they could do. I think it was just it was just for some joke, but I think they should have left the ending the way it was.
There's an uncle that gets a big build up, and he's in prison, and he shows up, and right after things happen, and Chris goes to talk to him, and you basically think that he's going to be something. I thought he might have been a big cameo, but he's just some random jaybird I've never seen in my life, and he probably has done stuff, but I don't know. But I mean, he might be able to set something up, but because he's in prison, I guess it might be a direction you could go, but I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be a third one or not. I don't know how many graphic novels there's been, honestly.
They've been writing them as they go.
Oh, that's cool.
It was just the first one, and then the movie was made, and then they made this. They wrote and made the second book, and then the second movie was made. They're just kind of going on that system.
Interesting. I did not know that.
They might be done. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I would personally recommend not staying for the end credit scene. But if you're curious, go ahead. But it might taint the ending a little bit.
I can see that without question.
So do you have anything else to add?
I enjoyed the movie. I'll tell you right now, there was a guy in the Injustice Forever that he's gay, and he doesn't wear a mask because he doesn't want to hide behind a mask. He doesn't want to be in staying closets anymore. And I'll totally be honest with you. I did not know his name until I looked in the credits right here. He apparently is Insect Man.
I saw he had a bug on his chest.
I did too, but there was never a reveal in the actual movie what his name was.
Well, now we know.
Yes. Thank you, IMDb.
Alright.
Speaking of IMDb, I've got the next movie set up right here.
Alright, let's go into The Butler. Which, by the way, is all I'm going to call it.
Thank you.
We'll get into that dispute in a minute. Yeah. Most people already know about it, but I will just for, the sake of it. In case some people don't know. But, I guess the first thing I want to say is, you can tell right away that this movie was a lot more. If you knew his filmography and you didn't know that Lee Daniels did this movie,
yeah,
you would have never known Lee Daniels did this movie.
No, not at all.
Maybe a little bit, like some of the scenes at like the Gaines house kind of have that same tint.
Yes, definitely.
But this is extremely mainstream feeling for a Lee Daniels movie.
Yeah.
Just to straighten that out, Lee Daniels has 3 other movies. And he's the producer of Monsters Ball.
I did not know that, by the way.
The 3 movies he did were Shadowboxer, which was a very weird movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Helen Mirren about hitmen. Then there was Precious, everybody knows Precious. And last year's The Paperboy. Did he have one? No, that was it.
No, that's it. Then this one.
And The Paperboy is, even if you haven't seen it, I think you've probably heard around the campfire somewhere how weird it is.
It's really good.
I didn't say really.
Well, compared him to the other movies, it's probably, before this, it's probably Daniel's best work.
It's the movie where Nicole Kidman pisses on Zac Efron. That's what everybody knows it as.
Yes. It is.
So you would never suspect that somebody like Lee Daniels would do a movie like this.
No.
When it came out that he was doing this movie, I think people pictured something a lot different than what this movie is.
I imagine this to be Lee Daniels' Forrest Gump.
Basically.
And it plays exactly like that, too.
Yeah, this movie covers a lot of ground, so we'll just start from the beginning.
God, I'm looking at the cast list right now.
Well, obviously you have to do your circle back around to the beginning thing. So it actually starts with him, and he's like really old and in the makeup, and he's sitting in the White House. We don't know what he's waiting for. We learn at the end.
It makes total sense what he's waiting for if you really think about it, but still.
And then we cut back, and he and his parents worked in a cotton field, and I don't know, I mean, I know Lee Daniels is known for his very interesting casting choices, but I don't know who decided to make Alex Pettyfer the guy that owned this plantation. But,
They just saw him, but like, hey, that's a great idea.
You probably don't even remember him anymore. He was, for the thing he's probably most popular for is he's the guy that's a Magic Mike.
He used to be like a big name, not really a big name, but he was a medium name. They tried to make him one, it didn't work.
They tried to make him a big name with I Number 4 and Basely, and then that failed. And
I
then
Number 4 is...
He played one of the villains in In Time.
Yeah.
And I didn't even recognize him in that movie. And then Here Now. After Magic Mike. And his... Vanessa Redgrave also is there. I don't know how they're related.
According to this,
I would say
they're both Westfalls, so I guess it's his grandmother or his mom. I don't know what they're playing it as.
She would have had to have had him very late in life if Vanessa Redgrave is going to be Alex Pettyfer's mom, so she has to be a grandmother.
So she's her grandmother, and she ends up taking care of Cecil after something happens at the beginning.
Alex Pettyfer shoots his dad in the head right in front of him.
Thank you, because I didn't want to have to spoil it.
After, I guess he raped his mom.
That's what I'm thinking, and then probably killed her.
No, she was sitting there, and she's like out of it now. Like she's not right in her head, is what Cecil says later.
Ah, yes. And this time it really is Mariah Carey.
So after Vanessa Redgrave is too old to know what's going on,
yeah.
Cecil leaves and finds work with Clarence Williams III. He might know as Samson from Half Baked.
Yep.
And the guy they got framed for killing in life. And then that eventually leads to him, doing various server jobs. And then he's found by the White House people, and he gets called in to work there as the main butler, basically.
Yes.
And there he meets, he becomes like lifelong friends with two of the other servants, which are, I don't know if servants is a proper term, but I'm just going with it. Cuba Gooding Jr. and Lenny Kravitz. And they basically stay lifelong friends throughout the movie and his life. Like I said, this covers a lot of ground. The story goes in three different directions. There's Cecil and the president of the White House and his job there. There is Oprah, who is his wife, who has a subplot with Terrence Howard.
Yeah.
And his son, David Oyelowo, I think is how you say his name. Oyelowo, I think.
Yellowo?
And he was in The Paperboy and Jack Reacher, among other things. Yep. Middle of Nowhere, too. And, we see a lot of, Oprah is kind of worthless.
Yeah.
Despite her, we'll get to her in a minute, but,
Don't say that, you'll get killed for that. Just say her character is kind of worthless. We'll cover your base right there, Sarah.
I also heard that, a lot of what her character goes through in the movie is fictional.
Really?
So, if you want to talk about her character being worthless, that
totally just blows her character right there.
But the thing, we see history in two different parallels. We see the presidents through Cecil's eyes, and we see all of the big historical events through Lewis's eyes, his son, played by Oyelowo. We see, he's one of those people that, was the one that would sit in the white sections and protest and all that.
Yep.
We saw the KKK through his eyes. We saw Malcolm X through his eyes. The Martin Luther King shooting, the Black Panthers, and the Mandela stuff.
He was an original member of the Freedom Riders, too.
Yeah. And then, through Cecil's eyes, we see Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, and Reagan.
And they're all brilliantly played, too.
Let's go into that. Because something that got this movie a lot of attention was its massive cast list. Which, by the way, Melissa Leo was cut out of. I don't know what she did in it. I think she might have been a president's wife.
No offense to Jane Fonda, I thought that was Melissa Leo.
Apparently she was in it and she got cut. I think she was supposed to be one of the first ladies.
That makes sense.
I don't know which one, though.
Probably Lady Bird Johnson, if I had to guess.
And what got this movie so much attention was the interesting casting choices for these presidents.
Yeah.
To make it a star-studded cast. And, I guess we'll go in order. We'll start with Robin Williams, as I know. That actually, I could actually hear the crowd. There was a lot of people in there, and you could hear it.
That's Robin Williams.
A lot of people complained before the movie came out that the cast list was so star-studded because that was going to be distracting. And I think that might have been a problem because, like I said, Robin Williams is there for 3 minutes, and for a minute and a half of his screen time, people are saying, "Is that Robin Williams?"
There were people that were about 3 rows up from us, and that's the first. Every time there was a cameo, I heard them, and then we got to Liev Schreiber, and they're like,
and every time, and by the time people finally come to terms with the fact that is indeed Robin Williams,
he's gone, and we don't see him ever again.
Yeah, as far as Robin Williams' screen time goes, you pretty much get it all in the trailer.
Yeah.
Just a tiny bit extended.
Very true.
And he's fine. I try not to get too distracted by casting, so...
Unless it's an animated movie, and then it's hard to.
Yeah. But, so he was fine.
Yeah.
Like I said, he only had to be there for 3 minutes.
Second time he's played a president. Might be third time, technically.
Yeah, somewhere in there. I didn't like that.
He wasn't a president when he was Teddy Roosevelt, but he became a president, so I guess it kind of technically counts.
Next we'll go to... We actually get our first taste of Cusack, but we'll get to him when he's actually in office.
Yep.
The next one will be Marsden. There was actually some interesting casting choices with Kennedy. It was supposed to be McConaughey.
That would have been interesting.
But it was McConaughey for a long time, but then there was a scheduling conflict because McConaughey's very busy, as we all know.
Yeah.
And then there was a very brief time where it was going to be Franco.
That would have been awesome.
But once again, of course, we know how busy Franco is.
Yes.
So finally Marsden got the part.
Correct.
And I'd actually say Marsden is best for the simple fact that, I suppose McConaughey would have had the Dallas thing down, but...
Yes, he would have.
But, I'd say if you want to go as far as who looks the part, of those 3, Marsden is probably the best choice.
I agree with that completely.
And who played Jack again?
Minka Kelly.
Yeah. Because there was a controversy for a while where Mila Kunis was cast, and people were like, well, that is the worst casting I've ever heard. And but then she eventually got replaced with a woman whose name actually doesn't sound too much different from her own.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was a throwaway part anyway, I think.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you have Liev Schreiber as Johnson, who is not bad. And that's kind of where they started getting less distracted, because we started, going into lesser known names.
The mainstream don't know enough about Liev Schreiber's work.
I think
the people in that theater did not know about Liev Schreiber's work. We'll go with that. There were a lot of murmurs like, "Who's that? Who's that?
Isn't that Naomi Watts' fella?"
And then that one person's like, "You go back to Paranoia."
And then Cusack comes in. A lot of people complained about Cusack because they pretty much did nothing to change his appearance. They do later, and he has the nose.
He takes the voice somewhat, but he kind of goes in and out of it.
You can really hear John Cusack and not Nixon.
Yeah. Ben will hate this. I'll say that. Ben is the biggest Nixon mark on the face of planet Earth. He will hate this.
Towards the end, they kind of fatten him up a little bit, and his voice gets a little deeper, but he's still obviously Cusack.
Play him off like an alcoholic.
The sweating that Oliver Stone really put in.
Yeah.
And probably the weirdest of all the casting choices in this movie.
Yeah, this is bizarre.
Alan Rickman as Reagan.
His voice was so weird.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I don't know much about the history of presidents or what they sounded like. I saw some of Reagan's movies, but I never really know.
Most of that stuff is SNL based.
I don't really have a grasp on what Reagan sounded like.
Yeah.
This Reagan sounded like Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman trying to kayfabe his accent.
Everything, which he did so well in Die Hard.
Yes.
But I guess he's out of practice.
It's been a long time since Die Hard.
And obviously Jane Fonda is
Nancy.
Well, the thing about the big problem is a lot of people saw Reagan as this, not everybody, but a lot of people saw Reagan as this great figure.
Yeah.
But when he's talking in these scenes, he has Alan Rickman's dooming voice. I kept feeling like something bad was going to happen.
Yeah.
Just because it was Alan Rickman's voice.
He will not be playing Ronald Reagan in the Reagan movie coming out someday down the road.
But, yeah, you do get, oh yeah, I want to go back to something as far as people being cast. I will say, what they did with David Oyelowo is very interesting.
Okay.
Because I knew he was supposed to be his son. He was going to be in... You can see in the trailers he's part of the Black Panther stuff.
Yeah.
But, we see them in their early lives, like just when he's gotten the job at the White House.
Yeah.
And Lewis comes walking in, and I was like, wow, the person that they got to play the young him is really convincing. But David Oyelowo is playing the younger version of his character and just gets older through the movie. And it's like, how did they... He was the cop in Jack Reacher, and he was a peer of McConaughey in The Paperboy, and they made him look like a 12-year-old when
that was crazy.
When he walked through the door the first time. And then I think that, obviously, the brother was played by two different guys. Mm-hmm. But Oyelowo was there the whole time and just made up throughout the movie. And that was impressively done.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, okay, let's go into Oprah now. Oprah has a lot of Oscar buzz for a few reasons. This is only her third movie. Mm-hmm. She had The Color Purple in 1985, which she got nominated for.
Yep. And
a lot of people thought she should have won for. Then there was Beloved, I think it was 1998, the Taylor Hackford movie with Danny Glover that was like 3 hours long. And then this. Well, she's fine. She doesn't do anything like really big Oscar-y, like except for the Ruby Dee scene where she smacks Lewis.
That's one of her clips. I'm sure it
is.
is.
We saw what Ruby Dee got nominated for. So
yeah, no lie.
Well, here's the thing: is Oprah's like known for being one of the most powerful people in the world.
Yes.
And this movie is Weinstein, who's the most powerful person in Hollywood.
Yes.
And they're working together on getting this nomination.
That scares me.
I think the scene where she slaps Lewis and says one line is going to be enough to get her in, probably.
Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about her winning. I don't know.
Depends on what we've got for the rest of the year.
This early out, we don't know what her competition is, except maybe Jennifer Lawrence for American Hustle.
Yeah.
But you know how David O. Russell gets those actresses in.
Yes.
And his actors.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, she has this subplot that I don't know for sure. I heard it was fictional.
Okay.
Where I don't know if they're implying she's had an affair with Terrence Howard, or Terrence Howard's trying to get her to have an affair with him.
It could go either way.
Like there's that shady scene where she goes inside and then he follows her and just kind of looks around and the scene ends.
Yeah.
But then later on in that one scene, she's talking like maybe they haven't. I don't know. I have no idea.
Reminds me a lot of the way back in that stuff right there, too.
But, that just kind of... I suppose they wanted, do something with the character, but at the same time, it was just kind of a needless way to add drama.
True.
Because they, like I said, with the Lewis stuff and then seeing all the presidents, they cover, probably every possible historical moment in this time period that they can.
Yes.
I don't think they really need to add fiction to be dramatic.
No.
Especially to a character that's just kind of not really focused on.
No.
So, she does she has a lot of the cliche dialogue about, he's more married to the White House job than her, and he's more worried about what's going on in that house than their house, and all that. But, having said all this, I do think the movie's impressive the way it covers all this ground. And they do kind of bring you in jarringly. Like, one of the first scenes of the movie is, like, two black people, like, hanging by a streetlight.
Yep.
In nooses. And it has, like, a Martin Luther King quote. And, of course, there's an American flag in the background just for, more effect.
Of course.
So, that's symbolism. Everybody loves symbolism.
Yes.
So, but, cliche and Oscar baiting aside, I do think the movie is impressive the way it was able to cover all this and the way it passes through time. And
yeah.
All that. The Vietnam War's covered too, obviously, because the other brother.
His brother Charlie goes to war.
Yeah, I know.
And of course, he's against it, and it's like there should be a war in the first place. And
a military funeral is coming in this movie somewhere.
Yep.
So yeah, it's I'm sure it'll be a crowd pleaser. Okay. I don't want to sound like I'm bringing people down for being moved by a movie, because I'm sure people will be.
Oh yeah. There was clapping when the movie was over.
But the thing is about movies like this is they have a lot of these, big emotional moments. They don't always reach their peak, but
Yeah.
a regular person will see them as a big emotional moment. And the fact that the movie's so long, and the thing is if you have a very long movie with emotional moments in it and a lot of historical stuff in it, some people's minds will immediately jump to, they might have just seen one of the greatest movies they've ever seen in their life.
Yep.
Without really thinking it through too much. But,
That's the world we live in today, though.
Well, whatever, if they're moved by it, that's fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily... A lot of people figured this movie would be... a word a lot of critics will use is manipulative. Which is, you have movies that are genuinely emotional.
Yeah.
And you have movies that are just trying to get you to cry.
They're making you feel better that your life is not as bad as the characters on the screen.
A lot of people accuse Spielberg of that.
Yes.
But,
I see where people can say that, but it's not something I believe.
This movie felt pretty Spielberg, didn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Of course, he just did a White House movie last year, so
Yeah.
that might be why.
Probably.
But, I think it's pretty obvious that Lee Daniels wasn't... Obviously, if you watch his other movies, Lee Daniels is not the sentimental type.
No.
So he wasn't going for something that would seem manipulative. He was trying to, bring genuine emotion to it.
Yeah.
It's like people complaining about how, I'm using other people's words here.
Okay.
When white directors try to tell black stories. What everybody got on Tarantino's case for last year. And there was actually an interview with Lee Daniels where he actually Honestly, The Color Purple is a predominantly black story.
Yeah.
Well, Lee Daniels was being interviewed by this guy, and he was talking about the Tarantino controversy. And of course, Lee Daniels sided with Spike Lee. And then he defended himself by saying, Spielberg doing Schindler's List, I wouldn't bring it upon myself to do a Jewish movie. I'd let him do that, and he did it great with Schindler's List.
Yeah.
And the interviewer said, well, what about Spielberg doing The Color Purple? Would you have hired another black director? And then Lee Daniels backtracked and said, no, Spielberg was great for The Color Purple.
So were you expecting him to say, it's like, I believe Spike Lee should have done The Color Purple?
He wasn't established. He was still doing She's Gotta Have It back then. He didn't have to do the right thing yet, but...
There's always that.
Whatever. I don't want to get too much into race controversy or I'll get in trouble, so...
Yeah.
So, do you have anything to add?
I like the portrayals of the presidents. I don't know anything about politics either.
And you were asleep for a lot of this movie, too.
Yeah, well, I'm tired. The thing is, one of those things is I gravitate towards movies that I can identify with. And you know this. You know this better than anyone.
Are you trying to tell me you related to The Butler?
No, I did not relate to The Butler. But I like the story. I like the way that everything was played out, what I saw. And the thing is, I did enjoy what I did see. And it's something that I would recommend. But I think, I know it has its audience. Obviously, it was a huge audience. And I was really shocked, to be totally honest. Because at one point, we had this movie in Theater 1. Actually, until just this morning, we put it in Theater 2. But it might end up getting switched. Who knows? But
the showing we were in would have sold out in a smaller theater.
Easily. If it would have been in theater number 9 or 8 or 12, it would have definitely sold out. But
4 would have even been close.
Yeah, I'd say so. The thing is, it's being promoted heavily, and you've got the crowd that's going to come out and watch these movies. You're going to have the crowd that's going to come out and watch it because Oprah's in it. Seriously, you could tell there are Oprah marks in that theater. You definitely could.
She has a whole army of followers.
Yes, she has her own magazine. I mean, come on. Well, she had her own magazine. She had her own television.
Channel.
Has her own television channel. So, I mean, Oprah is pretty much queen of the world.
Like that joke that Conan kept doing. I don't know. It involved her in some way being the most powerful person of all time and killing him, but something like that.
Because he beat her at the at an award show.
It was something. Yeah, it was something like that.
I remember that actually, and it was like, oh god, I lost. I beat Oprah. I might want to duck now. But yeah, it was good. It was really good. I like the music. The music of all the different time periods, it played really well. It played exactly like Forrest Gump did with the music. And it covered so much ground. What?
All the Black Panther scenes of Lewis, I just was waiting for the line, I'm sorry I had a fight in the middle of your Black Panther party.
Yes! We'll talk about that next week. So... no, honestly, it was really good. It was very well done. Lee Daniels, I don't like. AJ doesn't like Precious. I don't like Precious either. Shadowboxer is interesting.
I haven't. This is the first Lee Daniels movie I can say I legitimately liked, I guess.
Yeah, I like The Paperboy, but AJ's kind of indifferent to it. Everyone was great in their performances and what they put out there. And Daniels actually directed a very well done movie. And I'll give it up to Danny Strong, too. I mean, he wrote a great story based upon actual fact and some, of course, like you said, the Oprah stuff, the fiction thrown in as well. It's a nice common balance of everything, and I think it works really well. I liked it. We'll go with that.
Let's go on to our next biopic.
Yeah, this was biopic day.
The movie probably nobody in the world is going to see.
Which is a shame, sadly.
Jobs. Starring. This movie was a punchline from the get-go because it was a Steve Jobs biopic starring Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah.
And though he may look like him, a lot of people thought that was one of the worst ideas in the world. The movie opens in 2001 when he introduces the iPod.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize they've been around that long.
Oh, yeah.
And he comes in and he's got the, they kind of shroud his face in mystery a little bit, but he's got the balding and he's got the beard and he's got the glasses.
Have you seen the poster? It's exactly the same image that you have of the poster. It's
that same picture of Steve Jobs that everybody knows.
Yes.
And I was immediately distracted. Because he looks like Steve Jobs, he walks like Steve Jobs.
He sounds like Ashton Kutcher.
He did not... He didn't even change his voice for the age of the character. He was Ashton Kutcher today in voice. All the people that have been punked by Steve Jobs.
That's great.
Okay. But anyway, after this opening, which by the way we never come back to, we go back to 1974 when he's in college.
Mm-hmm.
And we have one scene with James Woods. That was very disappointing. I was like, James Woods, awesome. He's there for like a second. And he's like he's one of those college professors that's trying to drive him in the right direction about using his knowledge of technology to, get degrees and shit.
Do something with his life.
But apparently, like most people today will say, Jobs thinks that getting a degree is pointless. So he wants to do his own thing independently.
Yes.
So then we go from there. We meet his friend. What's his name? The guy played by Josh Gad.
Steve Wozniak.
Yeah. And he gets he gets a job at Atari, designing video games. His boss, by the way, is Roy from The Office, Pam's original fiance. And he's basically about to get fired for his shitty attitude, but because he can't work with anybody.
Yeah.
So their solution is to give him the job on this game, and he works after hours after everybody's gone. And he calls in Steve. Yes.
Wozniak.
They're both named Steve?
Hold on.
I just now realized that.
Yeah, hold on. Let's go to the cast list here.
Okay, anyway,
That's why they call him Woz.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So anyway, he calls him in, and he basically... Okay, I'll mention this before I go into this. A lot of people I'd heard about... I knew absolutely nothing about Steve Jobs going into this movie, really. Except for a couple of things. But the thing is I had heard a lot of people say when he was going to have a biopic made about him that he shouldn't be portrayed as a hero because apparently Steve Jobs was a huge douchebag.
Okay. It really is like Zuckerberg.
This movie does not shy away from portraying him as a douchebag.
No, it really doesn't.
So he calls in his friend and they do the his friend, I call him, even though he's a big part of the movie and the wife. But he calls him in, and he's basically doing all the work for him. Yep. Even though he's got the ideas, but it's Wozniak that's doing all the work.
Correct.
And his boss has informed him that he's going to give $5,000. So while Wozniak's doing all the work, he says, "How much are we getting paid for this?" And Jobs says, $700. And he gives him $3. He gives him $350 later, and it's like, that's a lot of money. But of course, Jobs keeps the rest of it for himself.
Of course.
Douche move. But anyway,
sly businessman.
we get a lot of his college life. Like he takes acid, and the acid transports him to a Terrence Malick movie. Yeah. And his friend we've known from the beginning, which is Lucas Hawes. I forget his name in the movie, but. Lucas Hawes is kind of a recurring character throughout the movie and becomes on and off important.
Daniel Kutke.
Yeah. But anyway, it just kind of goes, and every now and then you wait for familiar faces to pop up. It's that kind of movie. Yes. But not, extremely familiar faces, just like...
People that actually pay attention to movies will know a lot of this cast.
Well, here's the thing, when he's starting to get it off the ground, there's the scene where he's making like 100 calls in one day for trying to get people to, take his idea. Yeah. Like the guy that saw his presentation at the school wanted his help, so they made all the boards. But there was a misunderstanding, and the guy thought he was giving him computers and not just the boards. Yeah. So then he had to find somebody else that was going to back him, and finally they come across Dermot Mulroney, who backs them, and that's when they start taking off, and that's when we start passing through time quicker. He's starting to succeed more when the time passes quickly. I think we jump ahead like 3 years after that.
We do.
And Apple is taking off and all that. like I said, I can't begin to tell you what's accurate and what isn't because I knew nothing before this.
It's just like going into the Social Network. I didn't know what was going in with that either.
Yeah, and they're doing a very it's almost like they're trying to capture the Social Network a little bit.
Yeah, very much so.
But here's the thing: is this movie actually was kind of the secondhand movie, and more people are talking about this movie that Aaron Sorkin has written a Steve Jobs script that's going to be made into something eventually. And that's what people are anticipating. So I don't know if this movie is going to disappear off the face of the earth once that movie comes out or before that.
White House Down versus Olympus Has Fallen.
But the thing is this movie is lengthy.
Yeah.
Because it has to pass through a lot of time. Not the Butler time.
No.
It passes through a fair amount of time. And it actually has a decent pace to it.
Yeah.
Which is something I was worried about because of all the stuff we have to go into. But it had a decent enough flow until the end. There's this scene where he's it's a nice scene because it gives you a closure on something. Like he has a what was it, his girlfriend that got pregnant.
Yep.
And then he said, "You get out of my house and you take that elsewhere because it's not mine."
Yep.
But then later down the road, the kid is born and she's growing up, and he gets. There's this scene where you feel bad for her because he gets a letter in the mail and it's written in crayon, and it's asking when she can come and see him, and we don't know if he's going to abandon her or not.
Yeah.
And then without notice, we get this scene towards the end where he's older and he has another child. Was that the same woman or a different woman?
I think it was the same woman.
They have the girl plus a new child, and that kind of gives you the okay, good, he settled that.
Yeah.
Wasn't abandoning his child or anything. But I feel like that scene goes on for a while. Like that scene goes into something else. We were nearing the end, and they could have just thrown a scene in there to say, oh, by the way, he's got his family now, and then they could have cut back to what the movie was going into.
Yeah.
Because it kind of strays away from the story that's been going on for the first hour and a half.
Completely.
And makes it feel like it's getting a little too long, which sucked because it had a fine flow until then.
It was padding the runtime.
Yeah, and then after that scene happens, you think maybe it's almost over, and then when these scenes that are happening are important, but because that scene came before them, you just kind of feel like they're dragging it on now.
Yeah.
So they kind of screwed themselves over in the last half hour with that. I guess we'll talk about these people that showed up. You have J.K. Simmons, of course, who is the, what exactly was his job?
He was the chairman of the board.
Yeah. He's basically the guy that, he initially kicked him off of Apple.
Yes.
And he went into the other direction. Obviously there's a scene where he's on the phone with Bill Gates screaming at him that he stole his idea. J.K. Simmons is always, one of those actors that everybody likes seeing, even though he can show up for like 30 seconds or have a big part.
Yep.
Matthew Modine has I completely forgot he was supposed to be in the movie. He shows up in the last half hour.
Yeah.
He's the Pepsi Challenge guy. And they use him for advertising. But
John Scully, he becomes the CEO.
Yeah, he's not to be trusted, unfortunately.
No.
Sort of like his character in The Dark Knight Rises. He has that same slimy quality to him.
Yeah.
I guess that's what he's going to do from now on.
That brings you to Kevin Dunn.
Yeah, that was really funny, by the way. I thought we were wrapping the movie up, and we get this. We're talking about what's going down at the end and who's taking over what, and we get this quick cut of Kevin Dunn on TV, and then he's gone, and they kind of keep going. I was like, whoa, did Kevin Dunn just do that cameo for like 2 seconds? But he's a major character a little after that.
Definitely.
There's Eldon Henson. I think that was him. You might want to look that up. I'm pretty
here
sure
right now. Don't worry.
I'm pretty sure it was him. I haven't seen him in forever.
Yeah, Andy Hertzfeld.
He is he's probably best known as from Idle Hands, if I had to guess. That maybe has like a cult following. But and he has a production company with Josh Hartnett. I don't know if they still have it, but they did.
Okay.
and he works for Jobs in the second half. And there's this random appearance by Sam Levine at the very end. I had to like triple take to make sure it was even him. He's just kind of there in a scene towards the end that's kind of punctuating the movie, basically.
There was two big ones for me that you're not speaking of. One was Joel Murray, who was in God Bless America.
Where was he?
He was a professor.
I think I might.
He was there for like a split second.
I think I might remember seeing him.
And the big one for me, honestly, and
was this his lawyer?
Yeah. Gee.
Because his lawyer looked familiar, but I wasn't able to put a name with it.
No, the word simply says computer professor.
Who's that?
The lawyer is exactly who you're talking about. Jobs' attorney, and that is Jim Turner.
Who's that?
Jim Turner, and this is a big thing for me, obviously, he played Kirby Carlisle on Artless, the HBO television program with Robert Wool that I love so much. So that's how I knew Jim Turner was, and he's Jobs' attorney. That's how you knew who he was.
Yeah, this movie's okay. Like I was expecting like volume on film.
I like the direction it went to, until like you said, until the end.
But it's fine. As far as Kutcher goes, he's wildly uneven because there are scenes that he really owns.
Yes.
And he's really good in. But then there's other scenes that he can't quite handle. Like the drama gets too heavy, and he gets his Ashton Kutcher voice is so distracting.
Yeah.
I mean, I know
he was trying. You gotta give him that for at least trying to change his voice a bit, but it wasn't quite there.
I guess. All right, so yeah, it's fine. So I don't like I said. I think it's it's probably gonna be like way down on the box office list.
Completely forgotten. No one will think about it at all in this sort of Jobs movie.
It was the closing movie at Sundance, I think, this past Sundance. And I didn't really hear anything.
I was getting ready to ask you what the reaction to Sundance was.
I guess that's telling that I didn't really hear anything.
Yeah, just a bit.
All right.
Well, the fun stuff begins now.
Our last movie for this video, anyway, is Paranoia. You might vaguely recall Chris Hemsworth's much less charming brother Liam in such movies as The Hunger Games and Expendables 2.
Yep.
And, like the last one, whatever. I was... Okay. You had asked me to describe this movie because you didn't know much about it or anything. I guessed... what I guessed the movie was ended up being the twist. So, if you don't know much about the movie and you're just going to guess off of it based off a couple of commercials you've seen,
you're probably right.
You got the whole thing down.
Don't go out, don't waste your money.
Okay. Alright, I don't even know where to start with this thing.
Well, first off, I'll start with the first thing I noticed right off the top was Liam Hemsworth looks like John Krasinski. This whole movie.
It was his hair.
It had to be. Some of his facials, it came back to from like Promised Land.
All right, we'll just begin at the beginning. This is one of those movies where, when the movie starts, almost everything that's happened in the movie's already happened.
Yep.
So he's running down the street from an unseen force, and he's narrating to us like, "Oh man, I got in too deep. This is not what I signed up for." And then, of course, we go into the regular story and we're like, I guess we're going to circle back to that later. So, we're not going to have to care about it until about an hour from now, and probably still won't by the time that comes around.
Yes. That's the best way to put it, too.
I had forgotten who the director was. The director is a guy named Robert Buketic, I think is how you say his name. He's the director of Legally Blonde. I don't know what he's doing movies like this, but... whatever. It's clear he doesn't have a grasp on how movies like this should be handled. But nevertheless, looking at the movie itself, I don't think any director was going to save this script.
It is straight to video, like worse than straight to video.
Kevin Spacey was offered Gary Oldman's part and he turned it down.
Now you know why.
Yeah, and the question is, why didn't Gary Oldman?
Gary Oldman will work for anything and anyone.
He did do The Unborn right after The Dark Knight.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I will say there's I hated this movie from the get-go.
Yep.
Not okay. Okay. Yeah, this movie has totally fried my brain. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Okay. I gotta straighten my. I wrote so many notes down; they're all over the place.
This was last night. This was the last movie we watched last night. So this is the furthest thing on this video away from anything.
Okay. Okay. I'll start with the first. Okay. I know where I'm starting now. I got this.
Good. Your inner hatred for someone is about to come out. And I don't think you've mentioned this on videos before.
Okay. Liam Hemsworth has an appointment with Gary Oldman.
Yes.
And he's gonna walk in, and he's basically trying to...
Sell himself.
Yeah. Like, he's got a little... It's one step down from a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah. He's trying to sell social media.
Yeah. And... God. Okay.
It just hurts, I know. I totally understand.
Liam Hemsworth plays one of these cliche... I'm a go-getter, and even though I'm young, I'll do anything I can to get what I want, and people admire me for that because I'm so ambitious. And so, he's in the middle of his presentation, and Oldman is letting off his douchey vibe of the way his character's going to be by interrupting the presentation to...
Drink his tea?
Yeah, he tells somebody the tea's like not cold enough or not strong enough.
Yes.
He has to get a new one. And of course, Liam Hemsworth wins him over by saying, well, I don't think you hired me to come here and watch you make tea. By the way, that would have had him... They wouldn't have taken him downstairs and thrown him on the curb. They would have thrown his ass out the window
yeah.
and fallen to the curb.
Yeah, they definitely would have.
But no. Because he's one of those go-getter characters, the douchey executive has to admire him for being, you know...
Just like him when he was younger.
Insubordinate, really.
It goes either way.
But, you know...
That's Harrison Ford later on.
But yeah, that's the kind of movie we're dealing with, and they let us know about that right away, so we knew right away this was going to be a fun adventure.
Yes.
And if cliche moments were not done yet, before the beginning credits are even over, he's pissed off that he got fired, so he's going to take, what was it, the company's credit card or something?
Yes, the discretionary account.
And he and his friends are going to go out and spend $16,000.
$16,000 on
alcohol.
The best club in town they never could get to.
And so, they go into this bar, and who does he see? The only actress that can match the blandness of Liam Hemsworth. Amber Heard.
And it begins.
Okay, so...
she'll probably die in Machete Kills. She should be fine.
They are dancing in the club, of course. And then, of course, you know, he's by himself. Because, you know, he doesn't, you know, do anything with coworkers. And Amber Heard, somebody who looks like Amber Heard, just happens to be in the middle of this club dancing by herself.
Staring at him, too.
Of course. So, he goes over there. They've never even said a word to each other, and they dance, and this dance turns into a one-night stand.
Yep.
And we just cut to the next morning.
We don't know anything about her. We don't know what happened. She basically kicks him out the door.
No, the one-night stand girl always comes back.
Of course. That's how it happens.
Okay. So,
especially in movies like this.
And chances are, she may or may not work for somebody that's going to be important. So, she's basically playing the character that there was a movie earlier this year that absolutely no one saw called Syrup. It was her and the guy from Evil Dead, the new Evil Dead, about making energy, like a company that makes energy drinks.
That sounds like a brilliant film.
And she basically plays the same character here. But here's the funny thing. They build this character, her character, okay? She goes to work in business suits, and they say, she does everything she can to succeed in a man's world, and, she has standards and stuff like that. You know, and they try to make her this powerful character, but, I don't understand how we're supposed to feel this way about her if, she goes to clubs by herself to have one-night stands. Yeah.
That's kind of a red flag right there.
But regardless, she's supposed to be this, respectable, what's the, I guess the offensive term is the ball-busting character.
Yeah.
But, you know, all she's there for is to provide this romance. And I don't know when this romance happened, because the extent of their relationship is entirely on screen.
Yeah.
Which is like 5 minutes. Like, they might as well have known each other for a span of 10 minutes when he's, like, practically living at her house.
Yeah.
And we don't know when this happened. It's just, they're just kind of there. And then in, like, a scene 20 minutes later, when we haven't even seen her for 20 minutes, he's, like, hanging around her apartment like he lives there. And when did this happen, and how, and why? And it's suddenly this romance that is built on nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you can say the romance happened off screen, but regardless, if we don't see this romance build, what the fuck's the point of it?
The job. I mean, they're both so busy at their jobs. I mean, there's no time for this stuff.
Oh my god. Anyway, well, if you think the okay, now that they've gone out of their way to do that for the woman character, we have to please women. We have to realize that this was not made to be a good movie. This was not made to be Harrison Ford or Gary Oldman vehicles.
No.
This was made to cash in on the fact that Liam Hemsworth is in The Hunger Games. Yep. And he's known as the guy that is constantly being engaged to and or breaking up with Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
So we have multiple scenes where, for no reason at all, he's swimming in a pool, or he gets out of a shower and walks around his apartment with just a towel.
Yep.
And there are scenes devoted to this. These scenes don't lead to anything.
Nope.
There are scenes just for him walking around his apartment with nothing but a towel.
And the people that were in the theater with us, and there was, what, 5?
Yes, 5.
Because there was 2 in front of us and there was, like, 3 beside us.
All women.
Yeah, they were all women. There was not a guy in the theater except for us. And there was... I didn't know what they were there for. Because the older ladies, I think they might have been there for Harrison Ford, maybe? Potentially?
I don't even know.
I don't know what they were there for. I mean, it was at 10 o'clock on a Thursday night, and they were watching this movie. It made no sense to me at all.
Well, here's the thing, too. Not only did this not... It's funny to think about, but you got to look at it from our perspective, and this is actually... I would say this is the truth.
Okay.
They were making out to make a sexy thriller, I think.
Yeah, I could see that vibe.
And...
I'm trying to.
What's really, really wrong with making a sexy thriller with these characters and these actors is... Every single time Amber Heard came on screen, I was having a hard enough time watching fucking Liam Hemsworth. But whenever Amber Heard would come on screen, and I had to watch the two of them together, it's like, oh, they're going to do more cliche banter. This should be fun and exciting. And oh my god, I can feel the fucking steam coming out of the screen.
Absolutely no chemistry whatsoever.
Good lord. Liam Hemsworth has the charm of a plank.
Yes.
And Amber Heard has the personality of...
A door?
A mannequin. A door, too, sure. Okay. Let's go ahead and go into Gary Oldman and Harrison Ford now. Richard Dreyfuss is in this movie, too, by the way.
He's the too.
Let me bring that. It's him and Harrison Ford. It's like Wahlberg and Baldwin in The Departed.
Yeah.
Let me talk about Richard Dreyfuss before I go into them. Richard Dreyfuss is one of the greatest actors of all time. Yeah. I'll fight anybody that says otherwise.
I loved him in W.
A lot of people claim he got by on his resume more than his acting. Because he's got Jaws and Close Encounters and The Goodbye Girl and American Graffiti. Yeah. But if you watch those movies, his performances in those movies should be just as monumental as the movies themselves. Correct. So the fact, and he's just showing up everywhere lately. He had the 2 scenes in Red. He was the one guy in Poseidon. He had that cameo in Piranha that was an ode to Jaws. He's even singing the song. Yeah. It's, to look at like the 70s and think about he even had a bit part in The Graduate. He had one line. It was should I call the police? Just to look at this now. I mean, I know when actors get old, they just kind of, they just kind of do what they can to just kind of, keep acting. Just that's what they want to do. Yeah. Like I said, his last great part was probably W, and unfortunately probably was going to be his last great one.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. He had such a drug and alcohol fueled life that if you look at his birthday, he's actually not near as old as he looks.
Really?
But he's of course been brought down to the sick father role.
Yeah.
And of course you got to have the plot where he's, his hospital bills are jacked up, so Liam Hemsworth needs a job. So if he's going to take this job with Gary Oldman, he's going to have, he's going to have a fast car to himself. He's going to have all the money he wants. He's going to have Amber Heard and other women that look like her. But, and of course, a time's going to come where he's going to lose it all, and he's going to learn something about himself or some bullshit like that. And
of course.
Yeah. Not to mention, also, as far as this movie trying to be some sexy thriller, if you want, I know Amber Heard left nothing to the imagination of her own body and The Informers.
Which most of you probably haven't seen.
But this is, I know it's not a perverse thing. It's I don't know what to say without sounding like it's full of shit, but it's sort of a realism thing.
Okay.
Okay. Hemsworth's character and Amber Heard's character have spent all night in bed.
Correct.
Doing God knows what.
Taxes, just like I brought up the story from earlier.
And this is like the third time now.
Yeah.
But when she gets out of bed to go to the shower, she keeps her blanket up to her like she's holding onto it for dear life when she makes her journey to the shower. I seriously doubt the only other person in the room has not seen what you're afraid of being seen.
Yeah, no lie.
So anyway, Oldman and Harrison Ford.
Okay.
They're actually fine.
Yeah.
They do what they need to do.
They do what they can.
And they're Gary Oldman and Harrison Ford. They're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Unless it's undeniably bad. But the great part is they have two scenes together. If you absolutely positively must watch this movie, it's for the scenes that they have together. There's one towards the middle, and then there's one at the end.
Yep.
I have no idea why Harrison Ford shaved his head for this movie. Maybe he felt that's what the character would look like. I don't know. But
let's check his filmography, see if he's got anything that would warrant him shaving his head.
But yeah, that's basically what this is. It's basically a I don't know how many people remember this movie. It's basically a straight-to-DVD version of Breach.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That movie with Chris Cooper and Ryan Phillippe, which is
mentioned Chris Cooper looked like Gary Oldman.
And that movie's great, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, if you absolutely must see this movie, why don't you just track down Breach instead? And you don't get the dopey love story in it either. It also got a little bit of
Ender's Game.
Here's a blast from the past.
Okay.
Parts of this movie reminded me of the Echelon Conspiracy.
Oh God. Yeah.
A movie from 2009 that nobody's heard of.
That we watched.
I don't remember who was in that movie.
Nope.
Shane West, I think, might have been.
I think he actually was the only name I remembered from that movie.
Yeah. Let me look at my notes, make sure it's something I missed. Just, as far as familiar faces, and Beth Davids, who was the teacher of Matilda, and she's in Schindler's List, is in it, and Julian McMahon, who is basically Oldman's muscle. They both work for Oldman. And then Beth Davids kind of brings her accent in to kind of be like, maybe if I talk in enough of an accent, this movie will sound more sophisticated than it is.
Ving Rhames and Ed Burns.
And, it has one of those, it's one of those, and I won't say what happens, of course, but it's one of those endings that's, the movie gets really proud of itself.
Yep.
It's one of those, this character just got served moments, and then, now this character just got served moments, and Liam Hemsworth has that very punchable smile on his face, and the movie just gets full of itself. And then, of course, as if the love story wasn't enough of an anchor on this movie, the movie is about 15 minutes longer than it needs to be because of it.
Yes.
You just absolutely, positively have to have that scene where just when you think all is well, you remember, oh yeah, I forgot. They didn't straighten out their deal yet. And after the movie has basically already ended, you gotta sit there for another 10 minutes and wait for them to have another banter scene so they can make up and walk away until they fade out.
I just want to throw one thing out there, and for those of you out there that are watching this video that were fans of the Comedy Warehouse, and you probably don't even know this, and I didn't really, I thought it was, but I wasn't positive. Jen Kober was in the movie. She was like the person that he talks to at the hospital that finds out where the hospital room that he's in is. And I'm just talking in generalities so I can not mention names so I can blow spots or anything, but so she's there, and she was a cast member in the Comedy Warehouse, so I thought that needed to be brought up. Yeah, that's what I'm bringing up. that's my 2 cents for this video. It's not good. It's too long. It was just, it was almost to the point that I just wanted to stand up and yell, "End."
If Elton John and Adam Lambert had a joint birthday party, there would not be as much sucking as there is in this movie.
Line of the night. Dear God, it was absolutely horrible. And it's funny because I had a feeling, tonight's not going to be a good night in this case, that when I thought about Paranoia, and I thought about Jobs, and I thought about The Butler, and I thought about Kick-Ass 2, and I was thinking, this is going to be the movie that's going to disappoint me this week. And I don't know why. It just was. It just, like, the Paranoia did not look... It looked straight to video. The poster looked straight to DVD. And, I mean, it should be on VOD, not out in theaters.
Oh, by the way, if you're wondering about the title, there's one reference to the title, I guess. There's this particular scene where somebody has a tailor, I think. I'm not positive, I've already forgotten. But Oldman walks in, and they're talking about, like, you know, top secret shit.
Yeah.
And this tailor's there, but he's never seen him before. And he says, "Who is this guy?" And they're like, "He's the new tailor." And Oldman's like, you know, sees him out of the room as fast as he can, because he might be a spy.
Yes.
Oldman has
Paranoia.
Oh, okay.
That movie made my head hurt.
And not in the way it wanted to.
No. It's not good at all. Just stay far away from this movie. Like, there are good action movies out right now. Go watch Kick-Ass. You can handle the violence and the language. Go watch Kick-Ass, but, I mean, no, Paranoia is bad. Really bad. So.
I couldn't wait. It was one of those cases where, this doesn't happen too often anymore, but, where I was literally about to get up before it ended. Because I did not want to, you know, I knew exactly what was coming in the last 5 to 10 minutes, and there was just no reason.
No reason to stay. It's paint by numbers. I mean, you already know what happens. If you have a brain, you're going to understand.
Yeah, this, as far as movies in this genre, this is as by the numbers as you can possibly get.
Yeah. Would it have worked better with a better cast and a better storyline and a better writer?
So just changing the movie altogether.
Yes.
A better title, better everything.
Could this have worked if
better
it was
extras?
Yeah. Could it? I don't like that guy right there. Hire that guy. So I hope my hand didn't get in camera there. It probably did. I think it did, actually. Sorry about that. I was pointing. So it's just like, could it have worked under a different umbrella, maybe?
I don't know. It was based off a book, apparently.
Oh, God.
I don't know.
I don't want to read the book.
I don't know. They might have butchered the book. I don't know.
Well, that was Paranoia. And we're another week in the books. But we're not another video in the books because we actually have a lot more to talk about tonight. Oh, sorry. Blowing the spot there. This is being shot on the same day. Sorry. We've got movies to discuss for another video that's going to come out also today.
How's that blowing the spot?
I wasn't going to tell people. I was going to put it up later on. But I decided to put it up on the same day. So you're going to get reviews that are going to be coming up in a few minutes. Limited release movies and movies we finally got to see. Lovelace, Prince Avalanche, The Way Way Back, Fruitvale Station, and Crystal Fairy. So that will be coming up. We'll actually be shooting that as soon as this video uploads. So next week, we got Mortal Instruments, and we don't know. We have a chance. We will be watching Blackfish and The Bling Ring, but not until after the video. So that'll be on September 6th's video. But yeah, that's right, September 6th's video.
It should be The World's End in your next.
Depending
on bookings.
We're not sure right now. I will know Tuesday what's going on. So who knows? I might even tell you guys on video on Tuesday. Who knows? We'll find out. So there you go.